My guest today is Dion DiMucci, better known as Dion, is a rock and roll Hall of Famer whose career covers 6 decades, and he's still rockin' and a rollin'. Now, before there was the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, Dion was one of the most prominent rock and roll performers of the pre-British invasion era. Now, initially, the lead singer of the vocal group, Dion and the Belmonts, he then embarked on a solo career. He had 39 top 40 hits in the late 1950s and early 1960s as a solo performer, or with the Belmonts and the Del-Satins. Now, he is best remembered for his signature hit songs Runaround Sue, The Wanderer, Ruby Baby, and Lovers Who Wonder, among others. Now, during the 1980s, Dion produced several Christian albums, winning a GMA Dove Award in 1984 for the album I Put Away My Idols. But the Grammy-nominated artist was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1989, along with the Rolling Stones and Otis Redding. And in 2002, Dion was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame for Runaround Sue. Even a musical based on Dion's life, The Wanderer, debuted in 2021, telling a story of transformation and personal redemption. Now, he has his 42nd album debuting called Dion and Girlfriends, a rockin' album you've got to hear. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the rock and roll legendary icon. Hey, he's rock and roll royalty, the one and the only Dion, to the show. Welcome.
What can I say after that? God, I think I'll leave right now. Goodbye.
Well, I tell you what, you have been rocking and rolling for over 60 years, and you're not slowing down.
I'm blessed. I'll be honest with you. I just have great energy, and I don't know. I think my parents had something to do with it. My mom died at 104. She was still working and thinking good, and my father was, I don't know. They were like built like tanks. I don't know. So I think I got a couple of good genes in there, and I have a lot of faith and. I have a wonderful wife. We've been married over 60 years. I have three daughters and five grandchildren, and they keep me young. And the music, I tell you, Ward, the music keeps me young. It does. And in fact, be honest with you, I'm glad I lived this long because the last three albums I think have been like the best of my whole career. I've been writing songs and I've been getting better. I have a gift and I try to hone it, but I've been getting better. The skills and the words and the music and I'm just enjoying it more than ever. I feel like I caught a wave and I'm just riding it.
Well, I've loved your last three albums, but I want to ask you because you grew up in the Bronx, but you had a love for country music. How did an Italian American kid fall in love with country music, especially Hank Williams?
Yeah, it is. It is kind of strange. I talked to Springsteen and Paul Simon and Lou Reed about this a lot because for a guy like Elvis Presley, it came naturally. He was there. He was in Memphis, but I wasn't. I was in the Bronx. But there was a guy named Don Larkin who he was a he was a guy who fell in love with country music, and he started a show out of Newark. I forget it. I forget the name of it, but it was a Don Larkin show, and he would one day I remember it, Ward, like when I was like 10 years old, 11 years old, I heard this honky tonk blues coming out of the radio, and it changed my life. It kind of hurled me into a place of transcendence or enchantment, like a place of delight, like that you don't experience on this plane. And I fell in love with the music, and I ran up to Fordham Road. I asked my father to take me up there, and I made friends with a guy named Lou Cicchetti who owned Cousins Record Store. And every time a Hank Williams record came in, he would call my house and we would go up there and pick the record up. I knew by the time I got on tour with Buddy Holly and Waylon Jennings, I knew about 40 Hank Williams songs. I knew the backsides. They would go, "What song is that?" I say, "That's the backside of Jambalaya." "What song is that?" "Oh, that's Luke the Drifter, you know."
Well, your father was a vaudeville entertainer. I mean, what was your home life like before you became an international rock star?
My parents didn't drink, they didn't drug, they didn't carouse, they didn't drink coffee, they didn't smoke, they weren't bigots. They just argued all the time. They just argued 24 hours a day. So when I got a guitar, I'd go in the room, they'd argue, I'd close the door, and I became a, I got better on the guitar, you know.
Well, what was your first guitar?
Lord, I wish I had it. I think they call it an L1 Gibson. My mom and my uncle bought it in a hock shop. It was like the original Robert Johnson guitar, you know. They bought it for $8. If I had that guitar now, I could retire.
An L1? You better believe you could retire.
It was something. Had a big, fat neck, but I love the guitar, and I have pictures of me playing it. I'll send you one when we after we
Man,
do this.
I would love to see that. Sometimes I like to go online, and I'm sure you do too, and look up the vintage guitars and just and you now realize how much these things are worth. And
Yeah.
thinking, like you said, if you had it, you could sell it and literally retire.
uh,
Well, I noticed that in one of your new videos, I think it was definitely in Soul Force, and I'm just going to go ahead and bring this up because I noticed your guitar. You play a Telecaster, but the name on the headstock is Bluesman. Is that in accordance to you, or is that a company?
no, it's just a sticker. I fancy myself a blues man from another Delta.
Well, I've been to the Delta, especially places like Greenville, Mississippi. It's places like that where they've just got lost in time. Things just haven't changed.
You know, Ward, I heard Hank Williams as a youngster, and it just, like I said, it enthralled me. It got me on this road, and I'm still, till this, I mean, this very moment, I'm still the same. I want to fashion a song so as to I can transmit it to you or someone else to make them feel what I felt when I was 12 or what I still feel when I hear not only a Hank Williams song, but after I heard Hank Williams, I heard Jimmy Reed. And I saw Jimmy Reed at the Apollo Theater, in Harlem, which was a stone's throw from where I was living. But, I could define it now, maybe not back then, but I really wanted to communicate like Hank Williams, and I wanted to roll like Jimmy Reed. He just had that, that way of just, you call it rock and roll. He rolls, man.
Well, how old were you when you started going to the Apollo Theater?
Well, then I was maybe about 16. I'd go down there with my friends, and we'd run down to the first row, and Big Al Sears would come out with his white suit and his white shoes and his that golden horn and the big Apollo Theater band, and he would just get up there and bap, bap, la da 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 da, bap, ba da, bap, da 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 da, bit, bit, bap, ba da, bap, ba da, bap, bap, la da 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 da, bap, da 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 da, bit, bap, la da 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 da, and we would get up and we'd start dancing, and I go back to the neighborhood, and I got these three guys. I say, do this, did it, did it, I try to imitate the band. And that's what some of those early records were, like The Wanderer and Runaround Sue. We were trying to imitate the Apollo band, especially on I Wonder Why. We started with we we had all kinds of intros, but the first doo-wop song that we put together, I kind of recruited these doo-wop singers from my neighborhood, from different neighborhoods, the best of the different neighborhoods, and we put the song together. I Wonder Why, and the first time we did it in my room, in my parents' apartment, uh, Carlo sang bass, Freddie sang, he sang falsetto, but low, a low falsetto, and then we had a tenor. And I sang lead, and we sounded like we were on a carousel. I felt like I was in heaven or something because we were all doing a different thing, But we started the song, like I said, like a sax. Den 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 no why I love you. When we were kids, we were like just winging it. We kind of invented this rhythm percussive sound. We didn't know how to write words, so we made up sounds. I started getting better with the words as I went along, and like I said, I'm getting better. I'm getting better now. I'm right.
Well, how did you get discovered?
Well, there was a guy, a black dude in my neighborhood. His name was Willie Green, and he was the superintendent of one of the tenement buildings. And he played guitar. And I was in junior high school. I must have been 14. First of all, I used to run home to hear that Don Larkin show, to tape some songs, because my landlady lent us her Pentron tape recorder. And I'd record maybe Lefty Frizzell and a Hank Williams and a Carl Smith song. But Willie Green lived right around the corner from me, and he was a janitor, and he played guitar, and he listened to, he was into John Lee Hooker, and he played it, and I couldn't wait to get with the guy. It was just, I was taken with this stuff. My head wasn't, I was a dreamer. Like I was in school, my head was out the window. You know what I'm saying? Like they had to wake me up. I was like thinking of getting with Willie Green and hearing some of that guitar playing and some of those songs. It was so magical to me, mesmerizing. So, and I tell you, I'm 84 years old. I'm still like that. You know what I'm saying? I haven't let go of it. It just, it's still I still wake up with that love for those sounds and that trip.
So did you cut a demo of some sort and get discovered?
Well, Willie Green, like, he knew a guy in the neighborhood, was a songwriter, and sorry for not answering the question.
That's all right.
This guy, Johnny Noto, he said, why don't you take Dion down to that new record? There were these two guys, Gene and Bob Schwartz, who opened up a small record company. They had a little room, and it was nothing back then. It was maybe 1957. And I took the train down to I was 17, brought my guitar down there and auditioned at Laurie Records. They were called Mohawk at the time, Mohawk Records, but then they turned it into Laurie Records. But I walked in and I played a Fats Domino song, Rosalie, and I played a Carl Perkins tune, All My Friends Are Bopping the Blues. And maybe I played a John Lee Hooker. They went crazy. They went nuts. Like, where'd you come from? And I had to call my parents, and they came down to witness the signature. They signed me that day. And that was it. I got this record contract when I was about 17. And then they wanted to put my voice on this track with this group called the Timberlanes. And the Timberlanes were like from Oklahoma or something, do-de-o, do-de-o, do-do, like, oh, up to Oklahoma. They were just such bright and cheery and uplifting guy. But I said, nah. I said, nah, that's not, I was listening to the Cleftones and the Moonglows and the Cadillacs, in the candy store. And so I said, let me run back to the neighborhood. I'll recruit some guys from my neighborhood, if you want a group. So I brought down these three guys from my neighborhood, and we called ourselves Dion and the Belmonts. And we started with I Wonder Why, I wasn't really a doo-wop singer, but they wanted to put me with a group, and it kind of got convoluted, and off I went with the group, but I was making sounds. I didn't care. I
Well,
just
you were a born rock and roller.
yeah, I love rock and roll. I love blues. I love,
Yeah, I'm with you on the blues thing. Well, what did you think when you first heard Elvis Presley?
uh, yeah, I loved Elvis Presley. I mean, he was, but for him, it was so natural. He was around it. That's what was happening around him. He had all this, like One Night of Sin or One Night, I forget some of the songs he did. They were like playing that in his backyard, live, yeah, I realized how great Elvis Presley was when all us rock and roll artists got together, and we recorded an album called The Last Temptation of Elvis. And there's about 25 of us on there: Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, Lou Reed. We did all these songs. And when I got the final product, it was a CD. I put it in my truck. I'm listening to it. I'm like, no cigar, no cigar, no cigar. I'm thinking, hey, these are great renditions, but Presley, I realized how great he was, because nothing compared to his records. You couldn't get there. It's
Yeah,
just,
but it's funny because that was mid 1950s. And here you are signing in around 1957. And here you are bringing the what I would call true rock and roll, I mean, out of New York of all things. Because everybody was either LA or it was Nashville. We had, there was a lot of acts coming out of Memphis. But here you are coming out of New York. But there's been since then there's been a ton of acts coming out of New York and Jersey. Uh, but that's what makes rock and roll so great. With so many people coming from different parts of the country. But I'm going to ask you because I was reading and doing some research on your background, and something kind of piqued my interest. How did you end up singing a song with Vic Damone singing backup vocals on the song The Chosen Few? And wasn't that the one that led you to American Bandstand?
I didn't know Vic Damone was on it. I had no, that was the one with the Timberlands I was telling you about.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it hit like number one in Boston, and I went to American Bandstand with it. It was called The Chosen Few. That was the record.
Yeah.
It was Dion and the Timberlanes. But when you hear it, it has nothing to do with rock and roll. It's like so. They had the record already cut when I went down there and sang Carl Perkins and Fats Domino songs for them, and like a Jimmy Reed song. But yeah, that's what I didn't want to follow that. That was a little. It was so off track to me. I said, guys, I can't do this. You got, you know,
Well, how
you got.
long did doo wop actually last?
Uh, I don't know. I think after 1963, you know, uh, to me, Ward, it seemed like up until 1963, if you look at album covers, everybody's smiling. Rock and roll was all in the major key. Like even The Wanderer is a really heavy song. It can be done in a minor key, but everything was done in a major key, happy. People were smiling on album covers. After 1963, after John F. Kennedy got shot, just around there, it seemed like rock and roll took a turn and went down about 5 octaves. And all of a sudden, on the album covers, Dylan came in. He brought thinking in single handedly. The times they are changing, Masters of War, Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. You had the war, what is it good for? You had the Four Tops still. You had, and people are like staring in on the album covers, like everything got very serious, and it had a down. And listen, I don't get me wrong, I love the '60s rock and roll. It was just a great period of like I never even call the Beatles, like they call it the British invasion. I called it the British infusion. I felt like they really captured the guts and roots of American music and kind of, you know, sang it right back to us, And so did the Stones and Clapton and all those guys. So it was a great time in music. I thought the '60s.
Yeah, because there was a lot of transitions going on in the 1960s, like you said. Things started changing around 1963 because the Beatles came on scene in 1964. Then, the Stones came in, and then we had that period between I probably 67 to about 69 because of the Vietnam War. You had a lot of these songs that were very heavy in content, and it was driving the narrative of the nation at the same time.
Yeah, Eve of Destruction, and you know, yeah, it seems like the people who listen to like doo-wop never made it to the fore because guitars took over. So I think the people who really there are a lot of people I know from my generation who just went to 1963 and stopped. They didn't move past 1963. Uh, I I was up at Columbia Records and I was sitting on a piano bench with Aretha Franklin. She was up there. She was a young girl, and they were giving her Al Jolson songs. They didn't know what to do with her. They didn't know. They were trying to. They didn't know what she was about. She didn't know. She was very young. And we're sitting there. I'm playing piano. I'm doing a song called Drip Drop, and so John Hammond Sr. walks in from the room right across the hallway, like 5 feet, 4 feet. He said, because he had released that Robert Johnson album, and he was in charge of all the rural blues guys, Furry Lewis and just Lightning Hopkins, all the, Big Joe Williams, and so he come in and he said, Dion, you really got a flair for the blues. Back then I knew it. I mean, I never really knew there was a genre that you could, I was all over the place. I was like a dyslexic rock and roller or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, but it paid off. But was it your appearance on Paul Whiteman's broadcast or American Bandstand that was the catalyst to be a rock star?
Well, when I was a kid, like I tell you, I had all these Hank Williams songs, and I'm talking about 13, 14. When I would sit on the stoops, this in New York, even at the church dances and stuff, I'd bring the guitar and I'd sing like Jambalaya or Honky Tonk Blues. I did not know what jambalaya meant. I did not know what honky tonk meant. All I knew is it felt good coming out of my mouth. Jambalaya and a crawfish pie. I had no idea what it meant. If you were talking about spaghetti and meatballs, maybe I'd understand that. But uh, so I would sing this, and there was a talent show called the Paul Whiteman Talent Show, and my parents brought me down there and auditioned. I was on that show, and I sang Jambalaya. I still have the record. It's an acetate. That they put it on one album, but it does exist. And yeah, I was that's what I was doing back then at that age. To me, it was like I said, it was like otherworldly. It was just otherworldly for a kid from an Italian neighborhood where everybody was listening to Frank Sinatra and Jimmy Roselli and Al Martino, or who Jerry Vale, and the singing like, oh, I know, and I was like, what the hell, what do they have, a stomach ache? What's wrong with those people?
Yeah, I know. I got you. And you were really a rock and roll star deep inside, just waiting to come out. I mean, it was in you. You already knew doo-wop wasn't really what you wanted to do. You already had the idea of what kind of music you wanted to do.
It's true. It was always inside me. I tell you, a lot of it's coming out now. It's a funny thing. Right before the lockdown, the 2020, I had written about 14 songs, and I had gone into a little studio right here in my neighborhood, and I recorded the songs, and I brought a band in. We filled it out. I got some tracks, and my friend Joe Bonamassa come over, and because his manager lives right down the street here, and he listens to a song called Blues Coming On. He goes, I want to play on that, Dion. So I said, be my guest. Well, Ward, what happened to me was I know how to make a record. I know how to write a song. I know how to make a record. But when Joe played on it, I realized how limited my thinking is, because when you get an artist who's outside yourself to contribute to something you did, they come in with something they're hearing. You're not hearing it, they're hearing it. And he played a slide guitar on it, and it was amazing. And I'm listening to the thing, and I said, the idea came to me. I said, imagine if I got just called up different guys I know, and get Jeff Beck to play on this ballad. He plays guitar. He can make me cry, that guy. If I could get Clapton to do something on this. And so I started calling people, and they said, yeah, I'll do it. Like Clapton jumped on it. I was like, okay. So, and Mark Knopfler, there was a song I wrote. I heard Mark Knopfler on it. I never wrote any of these songs for the people. I just heard them on it because I listened to a lot of music. And I got into this duet thing, or these albums with, that people could contribute to, and some of my friends could play on it. And we could make some good music together. And I've been enjoying it for like the last 4 years. I've been doing that. It's been a lot of fun, and I had such a good time with Samantha Fish and who else? Ricky Lee Jones, and a lot of these girls that like Patty Scialfa. I had so much fun doing some of these songs with them that I somewhere along the line about a year ago, I thought, man, it would be nice to be playing with all these women that I listen to that are flying under the radar. A lot of people don't even know them. Like, I don't know. Of course, some people, a lot of people know Susan Tedeschi,
Oh
and
yeah, oh yeah.
and Sue Foley, and a lot, Carlene Carter,
Well,
but a lot.
that song you did with Danielle Nicole. Oh my gosh, I
Now
went
she,
back. I went back, had to look her up and listen to her sing her own stuff. I was blown away.
yeah, Ward. To be honest with you, she just did a concert down here in the backyard. That's how like under the radar she played. She is in a friend's backyard. He had to come. Ward, I kid you not, she did a concert that she could do in front of 10,000 people. But I would say since Aretha Franklin and Whitney Houston have gone home in glory, that she is the best singer on the planet. This girl could sing. Oh my God, can she sing?
She can sing. She can rock with the best. I love guitar players. I mean, here you play with Joe Bonamassa, probably one of the best modern blues guys on the planet. Then there was Jeff Beck, like you said, Clapton. But my goodness, Danielle Nicole, she can hold her own against anybody.
Oh, you guys, she plays great bass. She's a great musician. She's a great musician. And she doesn't think. I mean, it just comes out like she's under the well of creativity. It just pours out of her like she doesn't try. She just does it. she,
Well, yeah, I mean, so you have this new album, Dion and Girlfriends, which is basically you finding out, like from the blues record you did with all of these amazing guitarists. Then you bring all these amazing women on to this album. How did you go about choosing which ones to have on the album?
well, like I said, Ward, I listen to a lot of music, especially like blues these days, because it's the only genre where people really express it's loose, it's real, it's raw, it's not structured so much to where all the notes are on paper, which I have nothing against all that, because I could even listen to classical music, but I just love expression, and especially the expression in the blues because it's so loose and so much fun. You could express any emotion, joy, sorrow, worry. You could it just hurt. You could just express anything within the blues. It's like a it's it, it's like it's a genre. It's like a form of music just come down out of heaven that to make people not whirl inside themselves and explode. They can get it out.
Well, your album kicks off with a very strong blues tuned Soul Force, which the amazing Susan Tedeschi plays on. I mean, I love that song. How did that come about?
Well, I got the word, Soul Force. I just, for some reason, I said, I got to get a girl who's like a Soul Force. Well, I was thinking of Anna Pokovic, but then but I love the way Susan Tedeschi. Well, they're both, and Susan Tedeschi I know her a little better, so I called her, and she's so down to earth, man. She said, of course I'll jump on it, and she did it, and she come in and she just rocked it, crushed it. But my what I've been doing, Ward, is I start out the song with this theme. Okay, Soul Force. This guy is like a player, man. He could just snap his finger. Women, he has no problem with the women. But this girl is a soul force. Not that she's unattainable. It's just that to her, he's almost a joke. He's like, come on, are you that thin of a veneer of a man? Come on. Like he never experienced anything. So I have this theme. So, and now the trick is, like, I could start it out, I thought that I could dazzle by distraction. And how could she resist my kind of action? And then I end up as strong as I started out, and that's the whole thing, to stay strong right till the end of the song with the theme, and not peter out. And I think I did that with that song, But I have a great co-writer, Mike Aquilina. We honed it out.
Well, it's a great song, but there's a song that really got my attention. There's so many strong songs on this album, but you have one called American Hero with Carlene Carter. That is a very beautiful song.
I appreciate. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, you're watching Fox News or MSNBC or CNN or whatever, and politicians and Hollywood and the tabloids. And I said, I'm getting sick of this. I said, I, we all have to look inside our own heart and be a hero right where we are to the 10 people that are in our lives, our wives, our kids, our coworkers, our friends, if we could all do that, it'd be a great world, and just hook up like that. And now, because there's a line in the song that says, "Why are we waiting from afar? Let's be the heroes that we are." So the song really is about the ordinary person, and that's that's the true American hero. And you don't have to be political to be, a patriot. You don't have to be this or that. A true patriot is someone who just knows there's a state of love and works at it to make it real, and shares it, and is makes it a better world. And
because when I watched the music video, what I loved was all of the children in the video, because there are future American heroes.
They are, and kids don't know anything about all those the political scene is so, it's almost like you got to be it's so full of lies, and I don't know how you could even get into that area of life. It's such BS.
It is. And then you released I Am to Please, with Danielle Nicole. Man, that one rocks.
I wrote that like a Jimmy Reed tune, like right down in a groove, like just, and the first verse I sing like I wrote the song. But then Danielle Nicole come into the studio, and she said, "Should I sing it low or should I sing it high? Because you're not in my key." I said, "Sing it high, it'd be good contrast." She goes off into the stratosphere, and so the next verse I sang it a little higher, and then she hit it again, and then I sang it a little. Now one verse is the same. They just keep escalating because of her energy, and these are the great surprises, if they're good. And with her, it was more than good. It was just very distinctive and fascinating to me.
Well, the album's incredible, but I want to step back in time because I want to ask you about Runaround Sue. So it was you, along with Carole King and Ernest Maresca, who wrote it. How old were you then? Because I know Carole was at least 19 at the time, but she was already very sought after as a songwriter, because she had her first hit at what, 17?
No, she didn't write Runaround Sue. No,
oh, she wasn't one of the songwriters on it?
No, not at all. No, Ernie and I put that together at no, she's not a songwriter on that. She wrote a song I did called This Little Girl. Yeah, and she was a friend, but Runaround Sue was written at at a neighborhood party. We got everybody singing like a riff, we like I said, we wanted to imitate the Apollo band, so we got like hip hip bum de 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 hip hip bum de 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 hip hip bum de 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 hip ba da ba da 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 hip Hey, we did that for about 2 hours. And the whole room was singing, and we're banging on cardboard boxes and beer bottles, and we're like having people are playing conga drums, and we're just singing the song, and I start writing words to it, and I start getting an idea for for a song on top of this riff, and then about 3 days later, I go into the studio and record it, and Ernie and I kind of put it together where it would work as a song. And I bring it back to the neighborhood and I play it for everybody. I said, listen to this. This is what we did at Joey's party the other night. And I blast it and they go, you ruined it. You ruined it. What'd you do? And so I could ruin what we did at the party and get a #1 record. So,
Oh, that's funny. Well, I'm gonna have to jump on Spotify for putting in the wrong credits when it comes to certain songs. So they're to blame for putting Carole King's name on that one. But I've got to ask you because I've seen documentaries one right after the other about the Winter Dance Party, and I know that you've been asked questions galore. And I actually had to go back and I watched the 1 hour video you did to correct the history of that night. And, you were the one that survived because you didn't get on the plane with Buddy Holly or Richie Valens or the Big Bopper. I guess it was good that you didn't want to spend the $36.
right. Remember I told you my parents arguing all the time, Ward? They were arguing about the rent, $36 a month rent in the Bronx. And when, Buddy Holly, he was 22 years old. I was 19. And when he chartered that plane, because we were having such horrific experiences on that bus breaking down in 30 below zero weather and crisscrossing the Midwest, that when he rented that plane or chartered it, and we were in the room and he told everybody it was $36. I mean, I won the coin toss to get on the plane because one of us had to stay, but when he said $36, I said, "Whoa! I'm not spending a whole month's rent on an hour and a half flight to Fargo." So I just declined because that was the primary reason for it, the $36. And man, it's 60 years later, isn't it not? It's
Yeah.
1959, 65 years. I don't know how many.
Well, how did you get through the performance that night on the very day that they all three died early that morning?
You know, I did that video. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame came down to my house and because they said nothing makes sense. They were out at the Surf Ballroom listening to stories, and they said nothing makes sense. Tell us what happened. So I went from A to Z, and I found out that my memory was excellent before the crash. After the crash, I remember very little. It's crazy, but we got through it. Bobby V came on the tour. I started singing Donna, a couple of Richie's songs. I did Rave On, and there was a young fella from Texas came up and helped out, and sang some songs. And Jimmy Clanton, I think, joined the tour. You want to know what? My memory's so bad after the crash. I know these guys came up and joined us, but it was like after the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame asked me to talk about it, I talked for a whole hour or an hour and a half. It was cathartic for me. It was like I felt like I could breathe after I told the story. It was like it was inside me. I never really, I don't know if I ever dealt with the grief. I was crying. I was like, it was crazy. I was 19 years old. I was like numb. There was a place inside me that was numb until I got it out, and it was almost healing to just tell the story, to
Well,
get
I
it
was
out.
glad that you told it because as of now, over 1 million people have seen that video. And and like you had said in the video, there had been so many stories about, who said this and who said that, and nobody really knew what was the truth. And you bring it forth, and I can't even imagine what you must have been thinking, that the only thing that separated you from that plane was $36.
Yeah, I told you my mom died at 104. When she was about 98, I was having lunch with her, and she's and she said, "Dion, I am so sorry that your father and I argued all the time. I know it troubled you. I know it bothered you." I said, "Mom, please, you saved my life." I said, "You don't know. I thought it was a bad thing, but the arguing actually saved my life. So don't worry about it." I said, it was out of instinct. I said, "No, I can't do that." But yeah, it was just
Well, did
thank.
you ever did you ever go back and perform at the surf room?
No, I never did. I don't know why. Listen, I love those guys. They were great songwriters and artists and brothers and friends and just great people. They were just wonderful people. Buddy was just amazing, statuesque, and the Big Bopper was just he was a joy to be with. He was full of joy, and Richie was just great heart. He was warm guy, just very warm hearted, and I just want to make them proud. I miss them on a lot of levels. But in my faith, relationships do not end. They never end. In fact, they move forward. Because my priest said to me, he said, "Dion, they're closer to the beatific vision. They're open to more of God's grace, and they're growing. So you be open to God's grace, and by the time you see them again, your relationship will have moved forward, you know?"
Well, did you find the Lord or did the Lord find you?
That's a good question. I don't think I'm that smart to find anything. I think I was in some way. I think when it comes to God, because I came into recovery in about 55 years ago. I was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and in the mid 60s, and I got down on my knees one night and I said, "God," I said, it would be nice to be closer to you. I don't know what I'm doing. And when I got up, I was changed. I haven't been the same since. Uh, so I think in some way you have to be open. Maybe, maybe 2%. He does the rest. Like it's a free gift, but I think maybe there's 2% you have to be open. You just have to say, "I'm here to receive. I'm open."
Yeah, it's the humility. It's a lot of people may not know, but it's really the feeling of surrendering when you don't know you're surrendering, and the Lord knows that. He knows we're not the smartest, but He takes us where we're at, and then if we give Him the open door, He's going to take it.
Well, all I know is I'm so grateful it happened to me because I can't imagine living the last 55 years without him and my faith. I think my success, not only just making records but as a husband, as a father, as a friend, I think it's all due to my faith and having him in my life, and connecting. And there's a season of Lent right now, right? I went to church yesterday, got my ashes. I think it's a time that people should reconnect with that love because we could certainly use it. The whole nation The
Well,
whole
yeah, we can. But do you still sing any of your gospel songs in concert mixed with your rock and blues tunes?
yeah, once in a while, yeah. To me, I love gospel songs, man. They're uplifting, and they take you higher. They take you to a higher reality, and God knows we need that because
Amen to that. Well, what did you feel like when you won the Dove Award in 1984?
well, I like that album. And I like being around the people, and it felt good. It felt good. All that stuff feels good. You feel like you're connected. And that's a good feeling.
Well, in 1989, you were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, same time as the Rolling Stones and Otis Redding. What was that experience like for you?
Man, that it's like otherworldly. It was kind of nice. I enjoyed it, because I come from an era that you didn't get awards. Well, I do have 12 gold records on the wall, but the Grammys weren't like what they are now. Like all that stuff. You really there was no real TV shows to honor people and stuff. So when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame uh, did induct me, uh, I had a great night. It was Stevie Wonder also, and the Temptations, and Lou Reed inducted me. So it was a fun night for me. It just made me feel good. I felt like, again, I feel like what I've been doing, that that very thing I told you at the beginning of the interview, that I want to fashion a song to take people on a trip, to transmit this feeling of enchantment. I felt like, wow, I did it. And that is and you want to know the best compliment that I've ever gotten. I think I've gotten so many of them that I really remember, but one was just awesome. I was in the dressing room one time, and a young kid came in. He was about 19 years old. He said, Dion, he said, that story you told about Jimmy Reed, how he made you feel inside? He said, you do that for me. And I thought, okay, that's it. I could leave now. That I made it. That's all I want. That's all I ever wanted to do.
And see, that's the beauty about music. And it's the beauty about, recording artists. We all have memories of our idols, our music idols. Music makes memories. All of the songs that you have written and performed, they're part of people. They're part of millions of people's lives. I mean, what does that make you feel like?
Uh, when you say it, I'm thinking, wow, maybe that's true. I think it is true in a lot of ways. That's a good feel. That makes you feel good. Makes you feel like like your life is like you're connected to others and God, and it makes sense. It makes everything makes sense. Uh, they, Ward. I don't know if you are aware of this, but this kid Charles Messina. I say a kid. He's, he's like everybody's a kid to me. But he wrote a play called The Wanderer, and it's going to open this fall on Broadway. It's called The Wanderer, and it the way he wrote the story, it's unbelievable because it has all that rock and roll street history, and it has action, the gangs in the 50s. That my early juvenile delinquent days. I was like a wild. I was kind of crazy. And then I fell in love with this girl who moved down from Vermont, who I'm married to today. I mean, over 60 years. So, there's romance, there's betrayal, there's overcoming, there's a lot of laughs, there's great music, the way he placed the music in the play. So it's a play about transformation. It's a play about hope, which a lot of people don't have today. They have experience, they have strength, they have knowledge, they have this, that, but they have no hope. You wonder when they're going to get there.
Yeah, and
As,
that's what we need, and that's the thing about the power of music. Music, regardless what decade it is, there are songs that are uplifting. They bring us hope. They make us just feel good. Anytime that maybe someone's not, maybe they're sad or depressed, but then the right song comes to them at the right time and then just kind of lifts them up. And like, as you say, brings hope back into their heart. And it's people like you that do that.
I hope so.
Well, I'm going to ask you because you have this brand new album coming out. And I saw that the upcoming vinyl release of the album is a double album. A lot of people today don't know what a double album is. So, is there something special added besides the 12 songs?
No, I guess they're pretty long. I don't know. The other two, there was 14 songs on each of them, Blues with Friends and Stomping Ground. So they were double albums. But the vinyl is beautiful, the way the KTBA, my record company, puts them together. We have pictures of all the girls, of all the artists that have contributed to the album. And I have little stories about how I met them, about the song. And, gee, I should have taken it up here to show you how it looks. But, little stories. And Darlene Love wrote some liner notes about when she sang "He's a Rebel," she was singing about me. She said, "You were an outsider, boy." She said, "We were singing about you, boy." So
Well, you have performed and sang with some of the biggest stars in the world. Was there anyone in particular that you were kind of starstruck with?
well, I've always been taken with Dylan, Bob Dylan. For some reason, a lot of people don't know he's a great blues singer, and and guys like Springsteen, I really have I don't know, like a connection to. I for some reason like we resonate with each other. So, uh, but you know, I tell you a guy that I did a show with, and I became. I did a show, the Ralph Emery show in Nashville way back when with George Jones, Aaron Neville. I sang Abraham Martin and John with him. And Toby Keith was on the show. He was a young guy. And I really took a liking to this guy. And man, I just got to say something about he was just a top shelf guy, man. He used to go out and really entertain the troops, the real way, not just to take photos and get a photo op. He would actually do a show for them. He was the real deal. So just being around people like that, what could I tell you? I feel very blessed. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world that I get to live this life, meet
Yeah,
these people.
you bring up the song, and I was going to ask you because you bring up the song Abraham, Martin, and John. That came out in 1968. I actually went back and listened to it, and I was like, that was Dion. But then when I started really listening to the song, that was the type of song that was the epitome of 1968. It had the sound, it had the lyrics, it fit the time period perfectly. How did that song come to you?
I tell you, I don't know where you got that from because there was a lot of Jimi Hendrix going around and Ray Charles. But that song, uh, a friend of mine uh, wrote that song 20 minutes after Bobby Kennedy got shot. Uh, he was so frustrated because, after Martin Luther King got shot, Bobby Kennedy stood over his grave, said, "Who's going to be the next senseless victim of gun violence?" And he got shot. And my friend Dick Holla wrote the song in 20 minutes, but didn't sound anything like I recorded it. So I took the song, and I had this gut string guitar, and I started picking, because I was hanging out in Greenwich Village at the time and listening to Tim Hardin and these guys, and Richie Havens, and hanging out with John Hammond. And I started picking the song, and I started putting a melody to it and doing it. And my wife and her mother said, that's the gospel, man. You should do that song. That's a song about, you could kill the dreamer, but you cannot kill the dream. People like us, we pick up on it and carry it further. You should do that song. So, because to me, I didn't want to sound like like you're trying to, I don't know, what do they call that when I don't, you want to exploit something, kind of
Yeah.
like, it kind of bothered me about it. But they took my mind. They said, no, it has nothing to do with that. It's real. You can do it. It has nothing to do with exploitation or anything like that.
Yeah. It's a beautiful song.
Yeah, I did it in the right spirit. I was trying to say that, here are guys that are models. They try to do something good, and you know we ought to carry it further. That's all. Pick up on what they had this state of love that, like I said, does exist, and they were trying to make it real. They were working at it, but it's a crazy world.
It's it's funny how you tell the story of that song because being written 20 minutes after Bobby Kennedy was killed. And at the very same time, Elvis was filming the 68 TV special. And the writers wrote If I Can Dream at the exact same time.
Yeah, it was a crazy time in this country, very restless, and we were trying to bring people together through the music.
Well,
So
I've got one last question because I could keep you forever, Dion, but with such a storied career, what is your most memorable moment?
most memorable moment. You know, one of the one that comes to mind is I did the Arsenio Hall show for Martin Luther King's birthday, and I did Abraham, Martin, and John on it. I wish I had a tape of it. Uh, Somebody had take. I don't know if it's still up on YouTube, but and I told a story to him about how I put it together and how the country changed and what I was trying to do. And after the show, when the show ended, uh, Quincy Jones came out of the green room and he hugged me, and he said to me, he said, "You are really spiritually evolved." And then Smokey Robinson, with those light green eyes, he grabs my hand and he's looking at me. He's just looking at me. And he just squeezes my hand and walks away. But he said so much without saying anything. So I just remember that moment with those guys that, again, I feel like I connected, and that's a good feeling, Ward.
I'm kind of wondering now if you and Smokey Robinson ought to recut that song and do it together.
Yeah, he did a good job on it.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, Dion's new album, Dion and Girlfriends, debuts March the 8th. And I will tell you this, it is a must have album. And if you're like me, it's also going to be available on vinyl. So you need to head over to DionDiMucci.com for all things Dion. Check out his 42 albums, and he shows no signs of slowing down. Dion, I cannot believe that you're 84 because you have as much energy as Mick Jagger does on stage.
84 is the new 83. Hey, Ward, I thought getting old would take longer.
Yeah, take longer. No, I think it definitely creeps up on us very, very quickly. But wow, over 6 decades of music. Can you believe that?
I got to tell you, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. And thank you. Thank you for your time, Ward. And have a great day. God bless you, man.
Hey, God bless you too. And ladies and gentlemen, again, head over to DionDiMucci.com. Check out the brand new album again, Dion and Girlfriends. And I will tell you this, you need to add that one to your collection. You need to add the blues album to your collection because these things, his duet albums, I mean, these are this is the type of music you want to hear. I love this stuff. And Dion, you like I said at the very beginning, you just keep rocking and rolling.
Rock on, buddy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching and listening. And remember, we are available not only on YouTube and on television Monday through Friday on the CTN network, but also we are on a dozen audio platforms. So head over to either drwardbond.com or bondoncinema.com and check out all the happenings that we're bringing you, as well as the legendary icons like Dion coming onto the program. And again, I want to thank everyone for watching and listening. And as for me, hey, I'll see you next time.